Hi everyone, welcome to the Eco Side, Mossy Earth podcast. I'm Maria, and in this space we discuss nature restoration and how to help you reduce your environmental footprint. On this episode, we are going to take you on a journey to England's woodlands, where Sam Lee, a musician and activist, found a beautiful way to bring nature back to people's lives by hosting some really unique events. Listen to the world's most wonderful duet between a human and a very special bird, the nightingale.
There are no peacockness to them. Their peacock feathers are in their song, and that has evolved to be extraordinary and one of the most phenomenal expressions within nature, without question, in the whole world.
Sam is a London-based musician, but before anything, he calls himself an activist. He combines both of his passions, nature and music, to help people reconnect with the natural world, which is key to its protection.
Yeah, I've sort of found myself in this interesting place as a kind of conservationist who works through generating art within the environment and experiences that allow humans to engage and to relate to the natural world in ways that they may not have had permission maybe beforehand, and music is a wonderful guide into that realm.
And as Sam reminds me, we aren't the only ones who make music. Sam's project, Singing with the Nightingales, takes people into a world we forgot it was there, into the woodlands at night, to simply enjoy one of the best singers in the world.
I get the pleasure every year for 6 weeks of living in the forest, bringing audiences every night into the woods and creating essentially a sort of ceremony for this bird.
Nightingales are quite common across Europe, but throughout the UK, they are disappearing at an alarming rate, with only approximately 6,000 pairs breeding annually.
They're set to be extinct in about 30 to 40 years. Unlike Europe, where they're like pigeons and they're everywhere, very rare in England, but they're also very, very revered, as they have been all over the Northern Hemisphere. And we have a great tradition of folk songs recognizing the beauty of the nightingale as the kind of finest singer. And those 6 weeks when the males sing, when they've arrived from sub-Saharan Africa, they set up shop in their thicket and sing all night long. Hence the nightingale, the night song, the night wind. And they sing to call the females down. It's a mating call. And it's unflappable. Nothing stops them from singing. The biggest of winds or storms, it's incredible how close you can get to a nightingale. But what is so incredible is when you bring a guest musician, or I sing with the nightingale starts to collaborate and respond. And what you have is this experience where there's about 30 of us, never more than 30 people, sitting huddled under this bush with this nightingale singing, and myself with an instrument and a guest musician, a jazz musician or classical musician or an improviser or somebody from an indigenous heritage playing a local traditional instrument. And the nightingale would just start to sing with us. And it's a little bit like you've died and gone to heaven. You're in the dark, you're wrapped up, there's no lights, absolutely no lights. We're sitting, and the bird is so loud that your eardrums are throbbing. And we have this like communion with this bird. And most people are kind of reduced to tears, and just, there's great beauty to it. There's immense sorrow to this. And it just calls in on every person to look really deep within themselves about what their relationship is with nature, and how beautiful and what an extraordinary thing it can be to be close to nature.
Yeah, that's amazing. I just got chills. So you do feel like it accentuates their behavior when you guys jump in and sing as well.
It does. I mean, on a very ornithological level, they're a very collaborative bird. They sing with each other. There's amazing studies that have been going on, particularly in Germany, with nightingales, and amazing amounts of understanding about the nature and the intelligence of the song of the nightingale, and the improvisation, and their decorative skill, and very well studied bird.
And what this little plain brown bird lacks in appearance, it surpasses most species when it comes to their singing ability. They are capable of producing over 1,000 different sounds. Their song is so beautiful, it has inspired countless pieces of art. So hopefully, by the end of this episode, you too will feel inspired to just go out and listen. And if you are in the UK, don't despair. Despite being harder to find them there are still areas where they are thriving.
I mean, the site we go to has a growing population of birds, even though they're declining overall. This place we've been doing lots of restoration and conservation work there, and the birds are actually breeding really well and surviving and coming back.
So you have a group of people and they're ready to go. Your guest musician is on cue. How does it go from there?
If one is able to approach in a very respectful and attuned way, and part of the experience is we don't just turn up and go to the bird. We spend the night around the fire, telling stories, singing songs, and really grounding ourselves. It's a sort of guided, almost like a meditation of how we as a group are taken away, that we can open our senses using lots of the skills of that I've learned from indigenous communities, particularly Native North Americans, in terms of how to be more sensorily aware and work on that ability to connect with nature. And A Night Round the Fire essentially creates that sense of wonder and listening and stillness within ourselves, that when we approach the bird receives us.
That is so cool. So you do have to walk around every night. I imagine it's not the same place. So is there just one spot there'll be?
So we'll find a good singer, and different birds are better singers than others. So we'll go and find a bird, and maybe that bird isn't singing, so we'll move on and listen to the distance. You can hear them about a mile away. They're very loud and in the quiet of the night. So as a group each night, I, for my own sake, like to hear different singers and change the experience every night. And every night there's a different musician as well. So, and like as it is in the spring, like just subtle things are so powerful and expressive. And at night, one night can just be so different from the next. It can be 3 degrees or it can be 17 degrees centigrade. The stars can be out. We can have a full moon, or it can be complete darkness and windy. The frogs might be singing. There's so many other things that happen that just kind of create this sparkly immersiveness that everyone's just kind of like, oh my God, why don't I do this every year? It's just so easy for us to go out. And the nighttime is a very, very wonderful place that us humans have hidden away from. And this is a way of giving people that permission to go walk in the dark. You don't need torches. Go exploring. Really trust your instincts and your senses. Yeah,
that's amazing. And is it all about the sound, or do you get to see them at all? How does that work?
You can't see them. They're very secretive birds, and they hide very deep within the blackthorn thicket. They're famously secretive, and lots of the poetry and prose and writing over the last few hundred and thousands of years speaks about that. How much they don't like to show themselves.
Talking with Sam really makes me question, when was the last time I gave myself a moment to just sit and listen to the sounds of nature? And this project, as romantic as it seems, its vision is much bigger than just showing people the wonders of the nighttime. Sam is a founding member of the Music Declares Climate Emergency group.
we've been working to try and bring about change and declare climate emergency in the music industry and bring about carbon zero by 2030 within the whole of the British music industry. But we're now stretching out into Europe and America.
Sam's idea is that by inviting different guest musicians each night, he can draw attention to the devastation of the natural world.
How do we do this? And we do this firstly, most importantly, by giving musicians the opportunity to experience nature. So for me, it's very much about choosing musicians who will benefit from having this sort of interaction. And we've brought a large number of BAME, British and minority ethnic artists from different cultures and countries who by default in the UK have a much lower access to nature, and musicians who also have an audience who have no idea about the wonders of the natural world. Some very famous musicians come down who have been totally blown away and been able to communicate that out to their audiences. And for me, that's part of it. There's a Trojan horseness aspect of trying to bring musicians who will then take it into their art and also into their wider practice of going, my God, look, nature is wonderful and vulnerable. And I, as with a platform, have a duty to broadcast that and to promote the importance of how my listenership can become more aware and play their part in making change happen. So there's a very political aspect to the work that I'm doing. It is a romantic thing, but actually at the heart, I'm there to try and each musician, each audience member, by each person, to bring about a sort of possibility for an awakening to what actually is really going on. So the reaction can be manifold, to answer your question. Some people have written songs. Some people have come back as audience members, and some people have really gotten involved in the fight against climate change.
Yeah, that's great.
And some hated it. Some just didn't like it very much at all and were like, no, I'm just going to stay at home and never go out into a muddy field ever again. I'm quite right.
No, I was not expecting. Okay, so whenever they go, do you try and go first and rehearse with them?
There is no rehearsal. Nature doesn't get to rehearse. It's there. I take them in and we create a space of silence. And I will always open by, I have a little Indian drone instrument called a shruti box, which is like a harmonium. And I play that. It's a very wonderful tone and the bird loves it. And then I start singing the overtone singing, which is famous within Mongolia, but also with Inuit communities of creating this wonderful harmonic song. I'll give you a little example just so you can hear, because for some people it's and this is just me singing. So that, I'm blasting it out, but those breaths where I hold a drone and the whistle comes over almost, and the birds love it, and they get all kind of like, oh, something's going on, and they get very excited, and then they'll start to respond. And then I invite the musician to play and see what comes to them, and they could improvise or they could play a song that they already know or have written. And every musician's different. You can get the best musician in the world and there's no exchange. The bird's just like not interested. It's all about personality and dare I say open-heartedness. And I remember last year we had a cellist called Abel Salachau, and he came, and Abel is the most alive and bright and wonderful spirit. And when he started singing and playing the cello with this bird, the bird went nuts. Absolutely nuts. And I knew it's going to happen because I knew Abel is just like this beam of sunshine, and the bird and him started like riffing off each other and like, I'm going to play longer, I'm going to sing longer. And Abel was just like almost fell off his chair playing with this bird. But when it finished and like ended this like combative like dance with each other, me and the audience just burst into laughter, because it was so funny that this was happening, that this bird and this cellist in the pitch black, sitting on the leaves on the floor of this forest, were doing what we were doing. It was magic.
Sam has been hosting these events for 6 years now, but it all began much earlier than that. In 1924, the BBC done the first ever live broadcast on radio of a famous cellist called Beatrice Harrison singing in her backyard with a nightingale. 90 years later, Sam pursued the idea of celebrating this historical event and went to record a documentary for the BBC.
So I made this documentary, but I'd heard nightingales every year, loved them, but only to listen to. And I went in to make this documentary, and I brought some musicians, and we started playing for the first time. It was like, we never played them, the nightingales, the master, we just go and listen. And then I started playing, and the nightingales sang back, and I was like, holy shit, this is big. This is incredible. I can't believe this is happening. And so I was like, I have to bring an audience. People have to hear this. So, over the years, I've devised this like festival for 6 weeks every night. And we have a big festival, which is for 200 people. And over each season, we have about 800 to 1,000 people come through the woods in different places and experience this. And now we do it online. We have broadcasting. We had 50,000 people listen to the live broadcast we did during lockdown and the subsequent experiences. And it's become a huge kind of like, take it into theaters. It's become a roadshow, and I've kind of like riding off the brand, but that's how it began, all from this BBC experience.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Oh, thank you. Thanks so much. You just listened to the Ecoside, Mossy Earth's podcast. And just a quick reminder for our listeners, here at Mossy Earth we have our own rewilding and reforestation projects, which you can support through our membership. By becoming a member for just £10 a month, you will be planting 4 trees every month and contributing to the implementation of 6 unique rewild impact projects per year. So if you'd like to start restoring nature with us, head over to mossy.earth and become a member today.
Extraordinary energy matched by moments earlier the marsh frogs going absolutely nuts. They've just quieted down for a moment, and we're sitting here with a nightingale in front who's been singing a little bit. He's a little bit shy tonight. So I'm going to play some music and see if this might encourage him. Try some of my overtones with my shruti box.